Hello everyone, this is Álvaro Hernandez Crassus. I'm going to do the presentation for today, October 12, 2022. Then we're going to do the analysis of the book The Master and the Slave, a study in the development of Brazilian civilization by Gilberto Freyre. This book was originally published in 1933 under the Portuguese title Casa Grande e Senzala, Formação da Família Brasileira sob o regime da economia patriarcal. The Portuguese title is perhaps more accurate in the information that the book contains. The signs up produce the idea of the Casa Grande, the big house where the owner of the patriarchal is, being in control of the senzala, that is the quarters of the slave. And that relationship between the Casa Grande and senzala promote the formation of the Brazilian family and the structures of the patriarchal economy of Brazil. Then Gilberto Freyre was born in Recife, Pernambuco, northeastern Brazil in 1900, and died in Recife, Pernambuco, northeastern Brazil in 1987. He was one of the most influential Brazilian thinkers of his time. He obtained a bachelor's degree in Baylor University, Texas State, and a master's degree at Columbia University, New York State. As well, he received many academic honors, for instance, 11 honorary doctorates from different universities. He was formed as a sociologist, anthropologist, and historian, being a prolific writer, a scholar, journalist, congressman, university professor, caricaturist, and painter. Then, in this book, Casa Grande Senzala, the author looked to explain the different social dynamics produced during the formation of Brazilian society in colonial times. The same set of dynamics that over the time created a posterior Brazilian national identity. Thus, Freire looked to examine the formation of Brazilian society from three foundational elements. First, the cultural and ethnic-racial miscegenation as the positive genesis of Brazilian people. Second, the large state, or latifundian, as the original productive economic unit of Brazil's patriarchal society and its wealth. And third, the colonial institution of slavery, as necessary according to Freire for those times as one of the main propellers of Brazilian society formation. As well, Freire make a contrasting analysis between the United States and Brazilian societies, highlighting the different approach of matters like, for instance, the economic origin and the race relationship on each nation. Then he remarked on the superiority of Brazilian society over the United States on those topics. Freire characterized the mestizo origin of Brazil from a positivist and idealistic romantic position, highlighting the miscegenation between the white Portuguese, the local American Indian, and the African black as essential ingredients that harmoniously shape the nation identity of Brazil. On the other hand, the author explained how the large state allowed the nation economic development, while at the same time he justified the slavery as an institution, necessary institution in the time that it existed in Brazil. Because otherwise, the social, economic, and cultural dynamic that shaped Brazilian nation has not been reproduced. Regarding to the justification of the slavery that Freire made in his book, he said, open quote, "Let us have the honesty to recognize the fact that only a method of colonization based upon the large-scale property and upon slavery will have been capable of surmounting the enormous obstacles in the way of the European civilization of Brazil." Close quote. Here, Freire intend or try to justify the existence of slavery from the perspective of the large states, from the perspective that the unit of production of Brazil, the largest state in that time, required such a manpower that is only possible through slavery. That was his justification to slavery by the time that it exists. Then here come again the idea of the three concepts: miscegenation, latifundium, and slavery. What Freire tried to explain in his book is that the miscegenation generated or created from the interrelation of the latifundists or the owners or the patriarchal Casa Grande, jointly to the slavery institution of the senzala, the quarters of the slave, that interrelation produced a miscegenation, an intermingle that is a cultural, ethnic, and racial intermingle that as result or outcome produced the national identity of Brazil and the nation, the structures of the nation building of Brazil. That is the author, that is the Freire trying to explain, that the three factors, miscegenation, latifundium, and slavery, has produced such as a interrelation or dynamic that build the national identity of Brazil and support the national building of the country. Then in the process of miscegenation, then in the process of creating a new identity of Brazil, Freire highlight in other topics too, in other factors. For example, food, architecture, customs, sexuality, clothes, religion, belief, art, mode of production, different characteristics of different groups that intermingle to and produce the new realities of Brazil, in which the mixture of the three races intermingle to create Brazilian realities, Brazilian identity, and the nation building of Brazil. Even though that we recognize the value of this book, we have to point out the criticism to the work. For many, the book Casa Grande Senzala is neither historically accurate nor scientifically developed. But for instance, an elitist and positivist and romanticized literature account of how Brazil should be seen and identified by Brazilian and foreigners. Therefore, a 1930 work that found and produced subjective responses to a necessity for a robust nation building and the national identity of Brazil. Furthermore, for many critics, the justification of Brazilian slave society is contradictory to the ideas about the positive miscegenation in Brazil. However, we must understand that Freire was a man of his time, who looked for the pragmatic interpretation of the past, but offering a new positive path to the future. In conclusion, this book is an important icon of the Brazilian literature and scientific literature of all time. This book promotes the Brazilian national construction and Brazilian national identity. As well, this book is one of the most influential works of its time, confronting, refuting, working against the racist thesis of social Darwinism and others. Perhaps the author's elitist, positivist, and ideological bias led him to despise or neglect the analysis of some element of the Brazilian society. As well, we understand that this book was a controversial work that invites to discussion and critical thinking. Just to finish with this presentation, we're going to mention that of many books, many publications that Freire made during his life, Casagrande Sensala, or Master and the Slave, is the first book of a trilogy that he developed. Casagrande Sensala was published in 1933 in the same topics, but different historical framework. He published in 1938 Sobrados y Mocambos, which in English is the Mention and the Shanties, the Making of a Modern Brazil. And in the third book of this trilogy was Ordem e Progresso of 1957 under the English title Order and Progress, Brazil from Monarchy to Republic. Thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.